All right, BCEs. D'Amico's Chambers here. I am here to help Blacks convert into lucrative cloud engineering careers. All right. No matter your technical background, lack thereof, no matter your college education or lack thereof. All right. We're gonna do week three's class tonight. We've already did week one, week two, so I hope you've been keeping up. All right. Week three, we're gonna focus on something that's important, something that's vital, something that we all have experienced. If you're trying to get into this field and do this work, especially at a high level, at a proficient level, at a level that you're capable of doing, all right? Because I want you to not only get a lucrative job and build a lucrative career in cloud engineering, I want you to be really good at it, right? I want you to be some of the best out there, all right? Because remember, for the most part, we're still breaking barriers, and it's still relatively a new field of career work. It's an extension of technology. It's the next evolution in technology. So we're gonna focus on this part, which is important, which is how to pass a certification you keep failing. Again, how to pass a certification you keep failing that cert. Right? You failed it once, you failed it twice, you maybe even failed it three times, and you've grown discouraged. And now you're starting to question yourself: Is this really for me? Hmm. So I'm going to give you the 8 tips that it takes to finally pass that certification test. You keep failing that cloud certification test. All right. So here's number one. Well, first off, before I even jump into it, just know off rip, most people fail their first certification test. All right. So build comfort in that first off. Me telling you from example, I'm a cloud infrastructure engineer right now, six-figure cloud infrastructure engineer. And I have two certifications, my AWS practitioner and my AWS solutions architect certification. I failed my AWS practitioner certification 4 times before I passed it. 4. Yep. I took every route there is in the book that anyone could imagine of, Google online, think of to pass, and I just kept failing. And for one, I'm not even a good test taker. I'm not. I'm not a good cert taker. Anything that has to be condensed and confined and have to be exact, especially when it comes to a test, my anxiety goes through the roof. I'm just really a really bad test taker. Everything else I can excel at and do my thing. I can learn really quickly, all that things. I can get the job done, do the work. But put me in the room, tell me I got this finite amount of time, and tell me these are the specific questions that have only specific answers. Yeah, it's gonna take me a minute. I might come out that room last, to be honest with you, and still might fail. I have to come back again and again. So I failed my first practitioner cert 4 times before I passed the fifth time, and each time I had to keep paying for it out of pocket. There was no sponsor, there was no job saying, "Hey, we're gonna pay for your classes, the training, we're gonna pay for your certs." None of that. This was all straight out off the rim, off the whim of me learning it on my own, straight out of my own pockets, own pace. Nobody's showing me the way. All right. So I passed it on the fifth time, and then I actually failed my solutions architect cert 2 times before passing it on the third round. And the solutions architect cert is more expensive, as you know, than the AWS practitioner cert. It costs about $150 actually. So imagine paying that, paying for the courses, paying for the training, and still failing. All right. So I'm going to give you 8 tips that I use to overcome my fear of failing my cloud certification that helped me eventually overcome and pass my cloud certification. One of the benefits that you gain from all of this is the confidence to be able to take tests and the confidence in actually being able to execute the work because you're going to fail so much, you're going to know it so well when you eventually pass that when you get on these actual interviews and actually on a job site doing cloud engineering work, you're going to be really good and know so many terms and services and XYZ and tasks and programming language XYZ because you've seen it so many times. That's the beautiful part about failing is you're failing up. right? Even if your scores don't reflect that. All right. So number one, always take a cert prep course and a cert practice exam until you pass. So what this means is basically always take the certification. Don't go take a fundamentals course that's supporting the certification. None of that. You want to get straight to the meat and potatoes. So always take the cert prep course. All right. Always. Um, and we'll talk about how to find those in a minute. And then after you take the cert prep course, go through the whole thing. Me personally, I don't take. I learned that it's better for me to retain information when I'm not taking notes, because when I'm taking notes, I become distracted and it doesn't really cement into my brain. But when I'm just watching the course or listening to the course, it starts to become more fluent in my learning. That's just how I'm programmed, right? I literally, when I stopped taking notes, I was a way better test taker than when I used to take notes. And I used to take notes from notepads, physical notepads, to Google Docs, all type of things. Notes in my phone, X, Y, and Z. Flashcards, flashcards, anyone? All right. So always take the CERT prep course, and it's very vital that you find and take the CERT practice exam. Now, why is that exam very promising or very important? Because likely or not, at least half of the questions from the exam, I don't know how they get these. I don't know if they do dumps or whatever. That's another thing. Don't do take exam dumps. Do not bet your dollars on exam dumps. Dumps. No. Yeah. You might as well just take the practice exam and get good at test taking. Because what these practice exams do is they put you in the actual simulator of what it's going to feel like when you sit in front of the exam. That way it won't feel foreign. You won't feel like, oh, these questions came out of nowhere. The scenario that these questions are in are foreign. And no, these cert practice exams are actually pretty good and pretty accurate. From everything from the structure of how you're to expect the exam, the time limit on the exam, as well as the actual questions. So, and it's funny because the actual questions from the exam, you start to find out their real world scenarios. And then when you get in the real world of cloud engineering, you start running into those real world scenarios. You're like, oh man, I'm familiar with this, you know? So it helps calm your nerves even more. All right. So, number two, how to validate the cert prep course and make sure that they're actually valid certification courses or practice certified practice exams. For starters, you want to always look at the reviews. The gold is in the reviews. The validation is usually in the reviews. All right. One of the ways you do it is make sure that the reviews are recent. Don't be wary of courses that have reviews that only date back a year ago, because exams usually annually change, at most usually twice a year, but surely at least once a year. So make sure that you are looking at recent reviews. All right. So some is even recent as 3 days ago, 2 days ago, a week ago, a month ago. I wouldn't go any further than 3 months really, as far as reliability. So make sure that the reviews are just recent. Two, make sure that the reviews are reviewers from your country. All right, because any company can hire, any course creator can hire or themselves automate generic reviews of their courses themselves if they take the time to do so. And if they're all foreign, they come from a foreign country, and you're living in a country such as America or Canada or Mexico or Spain, and you don't see any Spanish people or Mexico people uh, reporting, "Hey, this worked for me," in your language. Yeah, then you might likely be buying a dud, as we say. So make sure the reviews are from your country. Now, all of them might not be from your country, but there still should be some reviews that are people. There are engineers in every country. All right, though there is a shortage of engineers, there are still engineers in every country. So somebody from your country commented in those reviews saying this is valid, take it or not. And that's another thing I want to add on here. Look for reviews that are kind of long-winded. because they give you more of a critical analysis of what to expect in the exam and if the exam is credible or not. They even give you a backstory if they know of, or what the author of the creator of the course, what other courses they've created that also have been helpful or been scammy. So pay attention to those reviews. All right, lengthy reviews also add to it. But again, make sure it's in your country and make sure it's recent. And last but not least is 4-star ratings of 20 reviews or more. Make sure there's at least 20 reviews in this course, unless it's like a high level course, like a high level sysops course or red hat course or some sort. Those will have fewer reviews. I would say buckle those down to like 10 reviews because fewer people take those high level courses and certifications, right? So you got to kind of tailor your expectations on the reviews based on the level that you're obtaining your certifications. But most of y'all are coming in at your entry level anyway. So there's hundreds and thousands of people who've taken this entry level courses, whether it's Azure, whether it's AWS, whether it's Google Cloud. So make sure it's at least 4-star rating. I wouldn't caution any exam that's beneath 4 stars. If it's 3.5, you might really want to start paying attention to what the reviews are actually saying. All right, they are very important. Trust me, those reviews will help get you far and let you know if you're making a good purchase or not, especially if a exam prep course or certification exam course is over like $30 or $40. You definitely want to look at the reviews and make sure you're buying a quality product because it's all products at the end of the day. Number 3, as soon as you pass the first time, meaning pass your practice exam the first time, schedule the exam. Don't. I hear a lot of experts or some people say, well, as soon as you want to take your exam, you schedule it and then you start studying for it. No, because that oftentimes all it does is add more pressure. If you really want this certification, if you really want this lucrative cloud career, then you're going to do the study. You're going to push yourself. Now you can set a scheduled time of when you want to complete your studying, right? You can schedule out your studying. You want to be done within a month time period or a couple weeks, or even some people are super ambitious and want to do it within a week or two. But yeah, schedule out your study time, but do not schedule your exam until you get done with studying, because when it comes to the last few weeks or week or two of your exam, your date to take your exam, you're going to be pressured. You're going to have anxiety. You're going to feel like you don't know enough. You're going to feel completely overwhelmed, and most likely you're going to bomb that test, and you don't get a real accurate estimate of how much of a knowledge base you have if you have given yourself the adequate time to study. All right. So respect the test, man. Study. Do the study work first, then plan your exam. Again, soon as you pass the first time, soon as you pass your practice exam the first time, schedule that test. Number 4, focus that narrow amount of time when it comes to the week or two before your actual certification test. Those last couple days, usually the last 1 or 2 days before the exam, you know, excuse me, when you schedule your exam, you want to actually, when you schedule your exam, that's the time you want to actually narrow your focus. So leave out all the partying, leave out all the going out, leave out on the bar mitzvahs and the birthdays and the twerking and the turning up and the drinking. You might want to drink a little bit, but you know, narrow out all the fun as possible and just do your work, because you got to stay stable, right? You got to take care of your family, right? Work and just focus on your cert for that small time period. Because again, if you took your practice exam and you passed that, you're more than likely going to schedule out your exam at the latest 4 weeks later. At the latest, most people usually do it within that 2 week window. All right. So, me personally, I do it within the 2 week window. I was like, all right, I'm ready. I got the money. I'm gonna do it. I passed my practice exam. I'm gonna do it. And in that 2 weeks, you ice out everybody. You just do what you have to do to buckle down on studying. Like there were some days I would study 12 hours a day. 12 hours a day. Nobody telling me when to study. Some people get mad at me and frustrated with me because I kept denying going out and doing things I normally would do because I was focused. But most people who respect what you're doing and they appreciate that you're trying to build a better life for yourself and your family, they'll be more understanding. Like, yeah, you're trying to focus. Treat this like studying for, like a person does studying for a law exam or some big college prep exam or whatever. Um, so yeah, narrow in your focus to passing that exam after you schedule it. Zero in on it. Now, number 5 is measure your results of your test outcome if you fail. All right, this is when you fail. If you failed twice or one time already, just measure your results. Most tests always either send you via email, may take a week or two, or maybe that same day for those results to come back. I know AWS are pretty quick about it. Usually comes within 24 to 48 hours, but they send you whole results of the entire test of what areas you were strongest in, what areas you were weakest in. Measure your results. All right. That means study and test in the areas that you have the lowest scores in. Now, here's why it's important. Don't treat this so much just like a business where you want to focus just on the stronger points and make that the concentrate of your business. These, more than times than not, those lower areas, if you just pick those up even half to the halfway mark, you would have had passed the exam. Because your strong areas are going to remain your strong areas. This is all knowledge. This isn't something like a um, these aren't objects that you start all over with no objects. No, you still retain the knowledge, so you still have these. You still know what you know. You just don't know what you don't know, and it's the don't knows that you need to know a little bit more of to pass this exam. All right, so always study and test in the areas you have the lowest scores in. Go over the entire, and B is go over the entire practice exam uh, one time again before rescheduling that exam. Make that a rule of thumb. Before you schedule your actual exam, go and always schedule your exam after you complete your practice exam. So again, go over the whole thing again. I know you're going to get some of the questions going to become mundane. Trust me, this all builds you to be a way better test taker and cloud engineer. Trust me, this stuff going to be so concrete in your brain. When you get tired of seeing certain questions and terminologies, that's a good sign. That means that you are remembering where this came from, right? So it's going to help you even more. That means when you come across it in a test, you're like, oh, this question again, or this scenario again, and you're going to already know the answer because you've been tired of seeing it. You've seen it so many times. Um, Number 6, most important part: take a day break. A day before the exam or 2 days before the exam, including the day of the exam. You have to give your brain is a muscle, if I remember it right. I'm not a medical doctor, but I think it's a muscle, not an organ. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But either way, it's you've been feeding it, you've been force feeding it, it's been growing, it's been pulsating because it's learning all this new stuff, foreign stuff, and you just need time to just woosah. I'm telling you, it's something about giving your brain a break right before the exam that allows all the information and all the knowledge to just really seep into your subconsciousness. And you just start to remember it all a lot better in the actual moment of the exam. Things become more fluid and natural. See, nobody really talks about the fluidity and the abstract part of exam taking. It's not always very linear as the test is. A lot of the test taking is very abstract, very nonverbal. There's a lot of feng shui that's involved in the flow of taking the test. It's going to help you, trust me, it's going to help you ease into taking that exam. You don't want to be nervous on the exam. You want to be as cool as you possibly can. And one of the ways to do that is just to not think about doing the test or not think about the test a day or two prior to the actual exam. And I found that always tested better and passed the exam on when I never went over the exam the day of. The day of the exam. Now, if there were certain areas I was really unsure about, like trick questions or questions that I know I've continuously always tripped over, I might have looked over that. But for the most part, I never pick up the practice exams, of course, the day of the test. I just go right up in there and do my thing, right? You got to let it flow. You got to eventually, at some point, you have to trust yourself and not be so reliant on the text, on the courses, because in the real world, when you're doing actually cloud engineer, a lot of the stuff you're gonna have to sometimes come off the whim, right? And so you want to be able to build that. You build all these skills of being a great cloud engineer by how you practice and study for certification tests. That is no kizzy. All right. It's funny how that works, but that is real life. These are real life based scenarios in these exams that really happen in the real world. That's where they come from. Number 7 is when reviewing your exam at the end of testing, abide by the 3-second rule. Now, I learned this actually from the exam person, instructor at the exam place. No, they didn't give me any tips to pass the particular course, but they always say when I turn my course in and everything and they submitted it, they always say, well, usually they can tell if somebody did really well or probably did poorly and failed by the time it takes a person to finish their certification exam. You got to think about it. They see thousands per month come in. Well, probably hundreds, depending on how small or big the lab is. But they always can tell those who usually come out, within an hour, hour and a half. If depending on how long the exam is, if you come out before your timer ends, you usually did pretty well. But if you come out right at the end of where you got like 10, 30 seconds left, yeah, buddy, you might as well go ahead and wrap that up and yeah, come do that because you want, and the 3-second rule is when you're reviewing your, because at the end of your exam, it always lets you review your answers. When you're going over answers that you're unsure about, give yourself the 3-second rule. Meaning, if it doesn't come to you, a better answer doesn't come to you in 3 seconds, let it be. Because you could screw yourself up. And I've literally failed exams by like 8 points, 10 points, 5 points. Um, because I went back and changed the answer that I shouldn't have changed in the first place. I had the right answer originally, but you start to overthink it and second guess yourself. Again, remember it's all the abstract stuff that you can't calculate that's important in test taking. So I always abide by the 3-second rule. If it takes you longer than 3 seconds to go back and change your answer when reviewing your questions, your answers you submitted, let it fly. Let faith do its job. All right. Number 8 and last one is understand you are doing something that most people have never done. And so give yourself grace by not being able to get it right the first couple of times. All right. Again, it took me 4 times just to pass the practitioner, the entry level exam. Um, I'm the first engineer in my family. I'm the first cloud engineer that all my friends know. Right. It's probably likely going to be the same for you. It's only a few of us out here in every country. So that even adds to our value. So always understand that you're doing what most people haven't done, and that's a big step. Prepping for this exam, scheduling this exam, and actually taking it already puts you in a minority of the population. Most people never know and go after these opportunities because they're too intimidated. So give yourself a pat on the back for having the courage to try it, to try to get yourself in a better position and to try to do something that you've never done before. And you will be highly surprised of how capable you are by the results that you have by your exam. So wish you all the best. That's week 3. And looking forward to your feedback in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm always here. D'Amico's Chambers, BCEs. We out.